So I'll probably hover on this end. Good morning. Let's see, sorry. Good morning. Ready? I'll work on some new ones this week. All right, good morning, everybody. We are going to begin our briefing here on Corona. We have lots of material to go over today that is going to be very, I think, illuminating for pretty much everyone who uses city resources and also parents and families. So let me just double check and make sure that our sound is okay and our video looks good. All right, so let's begin. Now, our deep dive topic for today is really going to be around youth and child and summer programming. And we're going to talk about how the city, we are now ready to do this. So we're using the preparation phase to prepare for how, when the state's ready and they move to phase one reopening, we are going to do phase one reopening of all of these programs in step with the state guidance. What we're able to share today is how that's going to work. And I also want to give folks a heads up. Part of making this work for the whole summer means that we have to start registration now. Even if those programs all get canceled, we got to start registration. And so that's why we wanted to make sure and do this today. So before we do that, let's do some of our updates from around central New Mexico. And also we have a number of special guests here today who deal with all things children, youth, and summer programming. So we're going to be hearing from some other folks from the city today as well. Okay, so to begin with, the state public health order requiring masks for all essential businesses, regardless of size, goes into effect today. Again, this is a state public health order, but we want to remind folks that all essential businesses of any size currently operating under the public health order must comply with face covering requirements. There's my face covering. And so employers are strongly encouraged to acquire face coverings for all employees over the next week, and in preparation for phase one, potential phase one reopening sometime in May. We'll see when. Otherwise, if they may not be able to operate in compliance with state requirements if the mask regulations aren't met. So that's just really from the state. Reach out to them with questions or concerns. Check out the various websites and so forth for details on that. Now, the State Department of Health is offering no-cost COVID-19 testing on Tuesday, May 12th, from 9 to 11 a.m. in the South Valley. So this is South Valley heads up for testing. Again, tomorrow, 9 to 11 at the South Valley Health Commons, which are located at 2001 North Centro Familiar Southwest. And appointments are required, so to take advantage of those out, and again, for folks in the South Valley, no cost testing, you can call 873-7477. And this is open to anyone who'd like to get tested. Now, Tricor is announcing a collaboration with Vitalant Blood Center and the New Mexico Hospital Systems, Lovelace Presbyterian and UNMH, to build a community resource of plasma donations for individuals who have recovered from COVID-19. So if you've recovered from COVID-19, we need your plasma at Tricor, our shared laboratory in central New Mexico. And this plasma can be used, they're still working on all the details, but the hope is it can be used to help people currently suffering from corona, and in hopes of improving outcomes. So patients can register online for COVID testing. It will help get them in and out quicker if they do that. And again, that's through Tricor. Now, also, want to remind folks in the Lovelace system that if they want to register for testing online, that it will also be much faster than just showing up to the Lovelace facilities. So you can do that at lovelace.com/COVID testing. Okay, let's move on to our deep dive topic for today. And we're going to be using the board here in PowerPoint. So a couple of things. I'm sure we'll post these slides, or if there's interest in having hard copies, they'll come out in our press release that'll come out later today. So want to remind folks that today begins the week across the city to catch folks up. Remember, the state gave some guidance, and they said that right now we're in the preparation to reopen phase. And so the city has taken this to heart, and so we are now prepared when phase one should come. The state announced a preparation phase, phase one reopening, phase two, and phase three. And so we took those phases and we mapped out all city services, all city facilities across those phases. Today we're going to talk specifically about children, youth, and summer programs. Wednesday we're planning on talking about everything else. So by the end of the week you will know how the city plans to reopen when we move to phase one. So with that, we want to go into a couple of things with respect to our kids, our families, and childcare around central New Mexico, including youth and summer programs. And I think, as a reminder, the city is the single largest provider in the entire state of children, youth, and summer programs. And so when we think about this dynamic, there's a couple of things at play in terms of reopening and what families who have kids at home can do, right? Normally the kids would be at school, or normally between 30 and 40,000 would be involved in city programs one way or the other. So the city really is childcare during the summer for basically half of central New Mexico. That's why this is so important. Now, we're obviously not going to be able to do anything even close to that, given Corona, but we are going to be able to help, hopefully, thousands of kids and families in this situation. So our top priority is really keeping people safe during Corona, but we also know that childcare must go hand in hand with any level of reopening. And that's why for our preparation phase for reopening in general, we've really had to take a hard look at what we can possibly do with respect to child, youth, and summer programs. Now, as a reminder, the connection between reopening is that, right, these workers can't go back to work if they don't have any childcare options. And because the city is such a big provider of this, we've got to look at this. And so I want to remind everyone that staying home, we want everyone to stay home, but staying home is really a luxury for a lot of folks. And especially when we go to a reopening phase, there's going to be a whole host of parents, often single parents, perhaps of lower income or less other resources. Their only option is city resources for childcare. And it's been this way for a long time, but it's especially true during the time of Corona. So we're going to do this methodically. We're going to outline this in phases that correspond with the state's phases and the state public health orders. And I want to begin with, I think, a mix of things. One, the good news is we believe we can offer lots of programming in a new, different way in correspondence in these different phases over the summer. But we also know that we had to cancel a ton of programs. So that we'll go over as well. We're also moving a bunch of programs virtually. So again, some are going virtually, some are canceled, some we're able to do in a new, different fashion. That's what we're going to outline for the rest of today. So let's go to our first slide. Now, this is really about a summary of what a different kind of summer means for children, youth, and families in the context of the city of Albuquerque and the programs we offer for those communities. So as we work to gain control of the corona pandemic, businesses and local government services, again, we've got to reopen in a careful, phased manner, and the state's outlined this, and so we're following suit with what we're going to do for our summer programs. And I want to touch on a couple of things. Again, we're going to talk about facilities like the zoo and museums, all of this, a little bit today, more on Wednesday. But in general, even as services return and facilities reopen, social distancing will be in effect for these phases. So face coverings, reservations and sign-in sheets pretty much for everything. That's so we can do contact tracing and quarantine procedures if something should happen. Also, you're going to see a lot about how we're going to keep people in cohorts so that if there is an exposure, we know, again, like the folks who are likely exposed, and we can quarantine them, get the testing for them, and then keep the other programs going. So this is going to be the name of the game for us. And again, reminding folks that this is important for thousands of kids and their families who rely on affordable and engaging child and youth care over the summer. So as we touch on a few of these too, I want to mention that we also are moving thousands of stuff to virtual, to online. But I do want to notice here too that, again, we are going to mirror the city's resources and activities with these phases. So we're still in the preparation phase, but we are ready when phase one reopening comes. We're going to be ready to offer these programs. Okay, why don't we go ahead and move to the next slide here. And let me mention a couple of things. This is a summary of all the different kinds of challenges that we're going to face by using essentially a modified program and curriculum and protocol. So the way we do this, and we know how to do this because the city has already been serving essential workers at community centers and child development centers. So as a reminder, as a way to help our public health workers and our essential workers, we have kept open childcare for these essential folks only at all our community centers. As we go to the summer and as we go to hopefully a reopen phase 1, we want to expand that ability. But to do that, we have to put in these safe practices. And so a couple of other highlights on these safe practices. This is about separating classrooms from each other. It's about a lower student-to-teacher ratio. It's that sign-in and reservation component that I mentioned. It's also about staff and youth wearing appropriate protective face coverings and so forth. It's also about facilities being regularly and extensively cleaned. It's about managing pickup and drop-off, so there's appropriate social distancing for parents also. It's also about daily screening on the way in, including temperature testing that will be used at each site. So as we go through the details of this in general, right, this is what we're going to be requiring for all people who engage with city anything, whether it's you work at the city or you're utilizing city facilities or utilizing city programs. Now, what I'd like to do is highlight some of the methodology behind this, and then we're going to bring up some of our programmatic experts to talk about this. We've showed this slide before. This comes, I think, from academia. It was used in a lot of the state presentations earlier. It's very instructive. And so the way that we should think about what life is going to look like this summer all corresponds to this methodology. So on one axis, we have the number of contacts here. And then on the other axis, we have the intensity of those contacts. So that's, obviously like how close those contacts are or how much physical contact or verbal contact is with them. And so as you can see, right, if you go up in terms of number of contacts and you increase the intensity of contacts, things get more and more dangerous. And that's why we have canceled a ton of stuff corresponding to this chart. And so I want to highlight the items on this end here. So trade shows, conferences, large social gatherings, these are all canceled all the way through June. We'll see what July looks like and what kind of phasing we can do. We also know that some basic things, right, like open swim sessions, those are also, things like that are also going to be all canceled till June. We do have some ways to get swim lessons in. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But anyways, you can see as you get here, offices, it depends on the size of the office, it depends on the type of the office. And again, our libraries and museums, we're going to show how we're trying to move as many programs as we can from here down to here so that we can start doing them in phase 1, 2, and 3. That's the methodology that we've been using. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Kristen Chavez-Smith. She's the manager of all our children, youth, and summer programming. And she's going to begin by walking us through what's happening at our community centers. Kristen?
Hi everyone, I'm here virtually on Zoom, so you can just hear my voice. So I'm going to talk specifically today about reopening of the Family and Community Services programs as well as the Multi-Generational Center programs. And so on this graph, you'll be able to see the difference in numbers. I'm going to pull it up on my own screen so I can see what you're seeing. So just like Mayor Keller said, there's a difference in the number of contacts versus the contact intensity that we'll see in our programs. So first of all, summer meals. Summer meals will be having a lot of contacts because we're hoping to get a lot of meals out to the public as well as participants in our own program. So you'll see a lot of contacts, but we're hoping to keep the contact intensity down. We're waiting on final approval, but we're hoping to do some grab-and-go meals this year. That way there aren't large congregations of people gathering in the parks, but we can separate families out and let them take their meals home. As for community and multi-generational center programs, those are our largest programs because they happen in large facilities. So once again, you're going to see a lot of contacts, but we're able to spread those contacts out throughout the facility and the parks that are attached to those facilities. So hopefully the contact intensity will stay low by keeping those group sizes at whatever the most recent recommendation is from the state health department. Then we go into our therapeutic recreation program. And therapeutic recreation is basically a program for kids and families with and without disabilities. For that, you're going to see less contacts. These programs usually happen at APS facilities as well as community centers, but we take less contacts in anyways into these programs. And we keep those ratios lower as well because of sometimes the higher needs of those participants. However, the contact intensity goes up because of the special requirements of some of those participants. So some of those participants will not be able to wear face coverings. A lot of them will need to have really special participation in the program. So some of them are nonverbal, some of them need to be changed and have diapers changed daily. So obviously we're going to see that contact intensity go up a little bit with therapeutic recreation. As for playground recreation, our summer program that have and we're approval for what's in this summer. However, we do see more intensity, just usually less space at facilities than center or you kind of see we start community to the general really see the intensity. So postpone the time, and I the general. So our view for as well as really say that we're the intensity are is keep that low ratio. We'll be going the line. Will stay the group, and there won't be a lot of use the lower ratios program when if they show on past much lower as we let's check temperature all of the clean enhanced PPE procedures within this, and then once again, data, normal social, when it can meals, we see them together. Whatever we're community centers. On that, take it to the mayor, Parks and Rec, some of the.
Well, I'll just do a intro. So, a cultural program, and just folks who departments, Parks and Rec, and so forth, cultural service in the zoo. That we're and Josh Herbert.
All right. We're prepared plan to program. Got Open Space Explorer, summer lessons, space, and so sports, ball, soccer, flag ball, baseball, all depend largely on do triple or softball, USA soccer. Park recreation have to sport rooms and hand facilities. In addition, the department will have to take on common areas such and which requires physical and CD health order depend on sanctioning and group size 100 Space Explorer program. So if the phase time we host the Explorer following and mid the program accommodation in person, and it'll be from 9 to noon, starting space summer years. So that's the number of work on city and the middle Grand Boston terrestrial land legacy working in nature, Rocky Mountain Hills and East Mountain to start and serve 16 years old all the way to 18. We do the points. We are to start lessons in June. Los Altos and the West Center phases classes and the current guide, but we're going to such as pre and we're going to children. Those it's a contact have to rely on limit the amount is up the ratio on one guys. We were in lower capacity the first June through the work, and we'll talk about facility. We have phases opening our bracket door to the and is prepared to open part. They have a very low number density. Right now we're just playground. This is permitted public for lap team. Phase 1 on a limit for laps, and it's going to be on a reservation so that we those contact that had mentioned it's going to close on a phase in recreation on base did capacity also reservations center to open flash pad of contact. It's running in close contact with each other. We're phase groups permitted for water solo and really contact basis. That's it.
Thank you so much. Of examples to illustrate one that there is nationally different pools of water does transmit its first. It's like your chloride. The pool water in many ways, but our if you separate water is actually in and out of the water. So connect folks all the only reservations for interfaces. So and folks too, we're talking. It doesn't do any of this now. We've mapped this to different and go through this state. Things like swimming pool. I want to mention that right does the nature of dictate contact the number. So sports work well and not. Also things like is not at least by lie and at least my the state. Those where last in. So let's for things such as bracelets. So come on up.
I'd like to as a in city for the safety measures that have been taken in preparation. Programs will have COVID throughout. These will be social. There'll be classes available with space, enhanced cleaning protocols, and our teaching staff wearing masks. Proper health and interactions and guidelines. With our summer, one great this is a practice that you can registration again on that we have this year to be digital to keep still reading, having summer fun. Participate 2,000 Albuquerque's youth and all of events are paid for support of our museum. We have been putting out floatable family can our museum with exhibits and exhibit on media platforms. And our programs will still be held with limited capacity and practices. Our explore phase partners explore even have exhibits on the concern living in. The is a professional for the creative art space and during this summer, especially in line with the CDC requirements. Program at Camp Biopark of students attend of classroom. Important these programs will be publications. aquarium will be open. The museum will also be partnership programs with will be scheduled for late. The program will be up to ag for one thing that's the farming in the future low resources. This part with Rocky Mountain Youth land focus on urban. Next, we are advanced cultural solutions. Following practice have push will for online and time tracking. The of the biopark is one. In the beginnings, have flows and encouraging patrons to purchase in line with our marketing these. We'll also be looking at the beach in this single post. There'll be we will be providing online whole pickups. Will be no more computer reopening phase. The Albuquerque Museum will one ticketing gates flow, offering tours in that phase. Centers like Broadway Cultural Center phase will be live in gallery. Our spaces will open bio and options. We'll introduce final phases. Guidelines will open port. Look areas of the bio. This would be areas like well-known, famous area tile. So we want to phase much more here in the CDC. The open latest phase possible sites like theaters. So that we're going to look to open with limited capacity in the last phases, and small sites with unique functions like the Ernie Pyle Library and our special collections library. And lastly, our well-known community events like Summerfest and Old Town concerts will also be in the later phases as well. So, thank you, Mayor.
Okay, a couple of items just to highlight from that. Number one, just want to remind folks that the concept is pretty clear that we're using here, but it's a way to reopen different things and enhance measure both prevention, social distancing, and so forth. Everyone knows, about for a minute. It depends on. Depends on the fact that rememberation sharing with you today, but reopen depend on in our own distancing, etc. Get to any continue doing will again make the fall one in red with our bigly. So the way it's out is on this, and you map you can see with all enhancements in. So for phase opening, it's all about every facility, every program. Absolutely, sort of. We're going to talk about in terms of that. So that's why you see all of they might especially a lot of these children programs, but they're occurring in a much smaller capacity. And of course, you got to sign up for them. And it's the same with facilities, whether it's libraries and so forth. All of these are extremely limited usages. As we go to phase 2, we see, us being able to handle more volume of people, but again, that reservation still being required. And so you can, sort of visualize concepts like the zoo, being open finally, but everything is using this batching ticketing process so that we control the number of folks in there. And again, that's only the outdoor portions of the zoo. As was mentioned, the indoor portions would still be probably closed. And then as we get to phase 3, the indoor portions will be gated and ticketed. Gated meaning, like we are with our grocery stores, metered, if you will, is probably a better term. So we're going to use the concept of metering basically for everything. And that's how we believe, though, we are able to open these facilities. But again, similar to the way we're opening grocery stores or retail businesses in phases, we'll be able to open things like the Botanic Gardens with the same principles being at play. And fortunately, we have a lot of technology to help us. So a lot of this is going to be you can do it on your cell phone with an app. You'll be able to do it on your computer. And we always want to make sure there's a non-high technology option. So we usually always have a phone option as well. And you can call 311 for details on this. So again, as we go to phase 3, which, hopefully sometime in July, we have, sort of limited public open access to these facilities. But until then, everything is reservation required and with very limited capacity. That said, by doing this, we think we can still serve 10,000 or so kids overall. It's just a reminder of how big the city's programs are. Normally, it would be 30 to 40. So in general, what we're mapping out is only a way to really exercise 20% of our city's normal capacity for child programs. But that 20% is very important, so we want to be able to offer that. And again, in phase 3, obviously, that would look a little bit better. Okay, so let's talk about a little bit of it on the next slide about what is just straight up canceled. So this is really sort of the bad news piece. You can see dozens and dozens of programs we're just not going to be able to pull off. And I want to remind you, some of this is for public health reasons. Also, the staffing challenges and logistic challenges of a city that is, turned off as we're in this stay-at-home order, et cetera, to open up takes time, it takes hiring, it takes training, and there's just some things you can't pull off either because they're not safe or because we can't keep staff safe to do it. So I'm not going to read every one, but you can see all our summer fests that are scheduled early on. So downtown, Westside, Nob Hill Heights, all of those are canceled. Any kind of open swim, canceled at least till July. All swim meets canceled. And then again, all special events, birthday parties, etc., canceled at all city facilities through July. And that goes through all tournaments as well, all canceled. At least until July. And then again, we'll revisit that. Also, all our public music. A lot of people love the zoo music, Old Town Gazebo music, all the concerts, all canceled through June. All events at the Chemo as well. And so all, of course, the events, the public events at our museums, and even Memorial Day, we've got to cancel. There's always a beautiful ceremony that happens in just a few weeks. That certainly would be a mass gathering. So there are going to be different ways that the different veteran communities are going to be announcing how to honor Memorial Day, but the open to the public gathering that the city always hosts at our Veterans Memorial has been canceled. Okay, then there's a host of things we're moving online, and we mentioned the key one being the summer reading program. It's a great one for online, as well as the Mayor's Creative Youth Corps, and a lot of the ABQ to do centralized family and youth activities. And of course, a lot of our demonstrations and in training and orientation programs are all going to move online. Okay, so we're going to move to wrapping up. You can get ready for some questions and so forth if folks have them. A couple of other things to touch on. One, I do want to remind folks on this slide these are essential services that have remained open. And so just want to remind folks, we've been talking about the future, right? We've been talking about how we're prepared to move into these reopened phases as a city. We just want to remind folks what currently, of course, we're doing. Now, basics, police and fire, including the stations, the police substations and fire stations. Emergency childcare for essential workers continues to be available, provided by the city. Solid waste, of course, open, as well as convenience centers. We know how important those are for spring pickups. Senior meals, we're still delivering 15,000 senior meals a week. Our health and social service centers, there's one in each quadrant in the city. They're available for emergencies, like how to get your benefits, really just food boxes and SNAP, how to get rental assistance, and most importantly, how to tie in to social services, whether it's issues around child abuse, domestic violence. That is the one place you can go for a number of questions that we've kept open. Our small business office, film office, and economic development office are open by appointment and by phone. And a reminder, we've kept construction permitting open, fire marshal's office open, development plan and review by appointment and by phone. Animal welfare adoptions and animal surrender still open by appointment or in the case of an emergency. And then our kind of key government functions, city clerk, civilian police oversight, city boards and commissions, again, all open by appointment or by virtual meeting. Drive-up Wi-Fi still active at all our 40-plus sites around the city. Government TV, now a place to go to get all sorts of good information. Has great new programming, including arts and culture. And remember, they have a YouTube channel as well. Okay, and then lastly, our Office of Civil Rights and Consumer Protection, open to fight against price gouging and unfortunate acts of discrimination and hate that may occur during these times. So I think with that, we're going to wrap it up for questions. Let me mention a few closing items. First, that again, we are in the preparation phase now. What we're demonstrating is that we are prepared and ready for phase one reopening with respect to child and youth care and programs over the summer. We've now mapped out what you can expect in those different phases over the summer. Again, the timing fundamentally is up to each of us, up to the virus, and of course we will wait for that phase shift go ahead from the state. And so, but the good news is we are ready to provide a lot of these programs for folks who desperately want and need them. Now, let me close just by mentioning what we're up to this week. Tomorrow we're going to be talking about animals. That's our game plan, animal welfare, some updates from our shelters. And then Wednesday we're going to talk about city services in general, not just childcare. We expect this week to have, again, we want to be prepared to reopen. And by the end of this week, the city of Albuquerque will be. So, and Kristen is going to now close with registration. Now, this is really important because the reason why we're telling you all this now is as a good heads up, but it's also because we can't do any of this without starting registration. So, Kristen is going to tell us about registration. I know for literally tens of thousands of parents, this is the only question you wanted to ask. So, we're going to talk about the registration process. A reminder. You have to register, and then there's a lottery. So, and it's always been this way because these programs are so popular, or in recent times it's been that way. So we're going to announce the dates for that. And again, even if there end up being no programs, if there's one program, we would have had to have done registration now so we can do hiring and planning. So we're registering now, but with the big caveat that, again, we're going to follow the governor phases. And we'll also have your contact info so we can update you on everything. So well worth registering. Last thing is a reminder, it's a lottery. It's not first come, first serve. So you don't all have to run out and register right now. Kristen's going to tell you how long you have to register. So back to Kristen.
Thanks, Mayor Keller. Yeah, so we just wanted to update the information on the lottery. Originally, we announced that it was going to be open for 1 week, and we're going to go ahead and extend it just a couple more days to give parents a little extra time to get into that lottery. So the lottery is live right now on play.cabq.gov, and the lottery will stay open until May 20th, which is next Wednesday. So we will hold the lottery that entire time. Now, just as Mayor Keller said, this is not a guarantee into the program. This is a guarantee into the lottery that we'll draw names for, and then you could get into the program. So the lottery will run May 11th through the 20th, And then we will be notifying parents the day after Memorial Day for registration. So if you get into the program, you'll get notified that day after Memorial Day with information on how to register into the program. And it's really, really important that parents are checking their emails regularly for information. If anything changes regarding the lottery or registration information, you will get that information via email, and then we'll also be posting any updates to our websites. So the place you'll want to go right now this week to get into that lottery is play.cabq.gov. It should be that first box you see on that website to register. And just to clarify, the lottery is just for community center programs and multi-generational center programs. So all of the other programs that Josh and Brandon and I talked about today will have updated information on registration on our websites. But for the community center programs and the multi-generational programs, which are the really big programs that people count on, that's the lottery, and you'll go to play.cabq.gov. Thank you.
All right, thanks so much, Kristen. So what we're going to do, we will post all of these online, obviously, and so stay tuned for those. They'll come out where we'll show which link and what the deadlines are for the respective programs. But again, the sites Kristen mentioned, that's the first place to go. And again, we'll keep people updated, as always. There's just a lot of uncertainty during these times. I think the good news is at least the city's ready to deal with that uncertainty with respect to these programs. And so registration and lottery begins today. Now, let's do this. We're going to take questions and take out lots over the weekend, but one was Amore Pizza. Okay, questions from folks.
If demand for the city's summer youth programming outstrips supply given reduced opportunities, will low-income families or those without other options get registration priority?
So question is, if demand outstrips supply, will there be kind of prioritization given? I will say this, demand always outstrips supply. So we have this problem year after year, which is why we continue to expand our children programmings. Under our administration, we've actually almost doubled the number of programs that we have, and still demand outstrips supply. So what we're going to do is we are going to look to some, of course, first responder and public health worker prioritization. But other than that, it's always based on the lottery. And Kristen, do you want to add anything else to that?
Yeah, that's correct. Every year we struggle with just so many kids needing programs, and we are at full capacity every summer. So we do the best we can to accommodate. It really is the reason why we went to lottery over a decade ago, to make it really fair for all families. I should mention that lottery does prioritize addresses in the city limits. So you do have to live within Albuquerque city limits to get priority. And then we're working to make sure some of our essential workers that really have been participating in our programs get the care they need. But yes, we always struggle with capacity, unfortunately.
Okay, thank you. We have one more from Jessica Dyer at the Albuquerque Journal. How much more personal information will you require of participants in order to facilitate contact tracing than you normally would?
The question comes in about how much more additional information we're going to require to enable contact tracing than we normally would. And it's probably a good one for Kristen as well.
Sure. So we gather a lot of personal information, obviously, with the registration of youth programs as it is. So there won't be too much additional personal information we're gathering from parents. One thing that we are asking is the capacity for kids to bring their own face masks so that we can be really adequately prepared to provide face masks to kids that can't provide their own. We're anticipating still seeing thousands of kids come through these various programs. So we really want to make sure that we're prepared for everyone to be safe. The biggest difference will be the wellness checks. So we're currently doing those at community centers right now. Anyone entering our programs or facilities get asked a series of questions before they're allowed to enter in, similar to the questions you might be asked at City Hall or when you go to the doctor's office. And we're also taking temperatures. And we will be recording that information for each person that comes every day. Now that's going to add a lot of time to our check-in process, as you can imagine. So we're also trying to prepare families for this new adjustment we're making. So that would be the additional information that we're keeping track of daily. And we see that going at least through summer, if not into next school year as well.
Okay, other questions?
That's it for now.
Okay, we'll be sending out the details online, and very much appreciated. And we will, first, actually, let me just close by, I want to thank everyone involved at the city on our Youth Connect team. So Kristen and Josh and Brandon, you know, this has been something that council has helped our administration prioritize. So I want to thank council historically for doing this, and it's needed now more than ever, albeit in a different form. But I want to appreciate all the city staff. In aggregate, this involves hundreds and hundreds of city folks, as well as over 1,000 summer high school hires, high school and college. And so also we plan, again, that's why we need registration and all this information, but we plan on hiring 1,000 of our kids, and that is a really good thing for them and our city. And so thanks everyone at the City of Albuquerque for your work on this. Great to see you online, and we'll talk to you tomorrow. Thanks.